Ever wondered why your grocery bill keeps climbing higher every week? It's not just inflation. There's more to the story. Food prices have been on a relentless rise, leaving many of us struggling to balance our budgets. But what's really driving this surge? Is it something temporary, or are we facing a long-term trend? In this video, we'll explore the complex web of factors that are causing food costs to spiral out of control, from supply chain disruptions and labor shortages to corporate strategies and climate change. We'll uncover the hidden reasons behind your skyrocketing grocery bill. You'll not only understand why food prices are so high, but also gain insights on how to navigate this challenging landscape. So, what are the real culprits behind these price hikes, and what can we do about it?
American consumers are feeling the pinch when it comes to the cost of food. Overall inflation is certainly easing or slowing, if you will, but new Labor Department data shows that the amount being spent on eating has hit a 30-year high. Restaurants and food company executives blame rising labor and production costs.
The United States is already experiencing very high inflation on food.
While inflation is often blamed for rising grocery prices, it only tells part of the story. Inflation rates do play a role, but they don't fully explain the drastic increases we've seen in food costs. Since the pandemic began, grocery prices have risen by 25%, according to the Federal Reserve. This is significantly higher than the overall inflation rate of 19% during the same period. So what's going on? One major factor is supply chain disruptions. The global supply chain is a complex network, and any hiccup can cause ripple effects. The pandemic caused labor shortages at every stage of the supply chain, from farms and factories to transportation and retail. For instance, when fewer workers are available to harvest crops or process food, production slows down, leading to lower supply and higher prices. Another issue is the increased cost of raw materials. The prices of essential commodities like wheat, corn, and soy have surged due to disruptions caused by events such as droughts and geopolitical tensions. For example, the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, a major wheat exporter, has drastically reduced the global wheat supply, pushing up prices worldwide. Labor shortages have also driven up costs. With fewer workers available, companies have had to increase wages to attract and retain employees. This increase in labor costs is then passed on to consumers in the form of higher prices. In the US, the food industry has seen significant wage hikes, with some sectors experiencing up to a 50% increase in labor costs. Moreover, corporate strategies are contributing to the illusion of inflation-driven price hikes. Many large companies are using the situation to their advantage by raising prices beyond what is necessary to cover increased costs. This phenomenon, known as greedflation, involves companies boosting their profit margins under the guise of inflation. For instance, major food corporations like PepsiCo and Nestle have reported record profits even as they continue to hike prices. In addition to these factors, climate change is impacting food production. Extreme weather events such as floods, droughts, and wildfires are becoming more frequent and severe, disrupting agricultural output. For example, severe droughts in California have led to reduced yields for fruits and vegetables, driving up prices. Understanding these underlying causes reveals that the rise in grocery prices is a multifaceted issue, not just a simple case of inflation. By recognizing the complexity of these factors, we can better appreciate the challenges we face and look for more effective solutions. So, how does this all impact your household budget, and what can you do to manage these rising costs? Understanding the complexities of the supply chain helps shed light on why food costs are spiraling. The pandemic caused unprecedented disruptions across every link in this intricate network, from production and processing to distribution and retail. First, let's look at production. Farmers and food producers face significant challenges due to labor shortages, primarily caused by the pandemic. Fewer workers were available to plant, tend, and harvest crops, resulting in reduced yields. For example, the labor shortages in California, a major agricultural hub, led to a significant drop in the production of fruits and vegetables. This reduction in supply inevitably pushed prices up. Processing plants were hit hard as well. Facilities where food is processed, packaged, and prepared for distribution faced shutdowns and slowdowns due to the pandemic outbreaks among workers. Meatpacking plants, in particular, became hotspots for the virus, leading to temporary closures and reduced capacity. This caused a bottleneck in the supply chain, reducing the availability of processed meat and driving up prices. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, meat prices increased by nearly 20% between 2020 and 2022. Transportation is another critical link in the supply chain that faced severe disruptions. The shortage of truck drivers, exacerbated by the pandemic, meant that food products took longer to reach stores. Delays in transportation led to spoilage of perishable goods and increased transportation costs, both of which contributed to higher grocery prices. The American Trucking Associations reported a shortage of 80,000 drivers in 2021, highlighting the scale of the problem. Global trade disruptions further compounded these issues. Ports worldwide experienced congestion as a result of increased demand and reduced workforce capacity. For example, the backlog at the Port of Los Angeles one of the busiest in the world, caused significant delays in the import of food products. This disruption not only affected imported goods, but also items that relied on imported ingredients, thereby increasing overall food costs. The effects of these supply chain disruptions are starkly visible in grocery stores. Shelves are often less stocked, and prices are noticeably higher. Consumers are not only facing higher costs, but also a reduction in the variety and availability of products. These supply chain issues create a perfect storm, making it clear that the problem is far more complex than a simple case of inflation. Also, while supply chain disruptions and inflation play significant roles in rising food costs, corporate strategies also contribute to the price hikes we're experiencing. This phenomenon, known as greedflation, involves companies taking advantage of the current economic climate to increase prices and boost profit margins. One key strategy involves price hikes beyond what is necessary to cover increased costs. Many large food corporations have reported record profits during this period, indicating that the price increases are not solely due to rising production costs. For instance, major companies like PepsiCo and Nestle have seen their profits soar while continuing to raise prices on their products. According to a report from the Groundwork Collaborative, corporate profits accounted for 53% of the inflationary pressure in 2023. Let's look at some specific examples. Kraft Heinz, a dominant player in the packaged food industry, increased its prices by 21% while only experiencing a 6% rise in production costs. This strategy has significantly boosted its profit margins. Similarly, Hershey's reported a 62% increase in profits in 2021, attributing much of this growth to strategic price hikes. Another tactic involves shrinkflation, where companies reduce the size or quantity of their products while maintaining the same price. This practice effectively raises the price per unit, allowing companies to increase their margins without overtly hiking prices. For example, a package of cereal that used to contain 20 ounces now contains only 18 ounces, but the price remains the same. This subtle change often goes unnoticed by consumers, but significantly impacts their spending over time. Additionally, the consolidation of the food industry has reduced competition, allowing a few large corporations to dominate the market and set prices. This lack of competition enables these companies to raise prices without fearing the loss of market share. The top 4 meat processors, including Tyson Foods, control approximately 85% of the market. This consolidation means that when these companies decide to increase prices, consumers have few alternatives and are forced to pay more. Corporate strategies also include exploiting supply chain disruptions and labor shortages to justify higher prices. While these factors do contribute to increased costs, companies often use them as cover to implement larger than necessary price hikes. This practice is particularly evident in the meat and dairy industries, where prices have surged significantly despite stabilizing supply chain conditions. The impact of greedflation is profound. Consumers are paying more for the same or even smaller quantities of food. For instance, the cost of a loaf of bread has increased by 15% over the past year, while the size of the loaf has decreased by 10%. This double hit exacerbates financial stress, particularly for low-income families who spend a larger proportion of their income on food. Understanding corporate strategies and greedflation is crucial for consumers trying to navigate rising food costs. Awareness of these tactics can help consumers make more informed choices and advocate for policies that promote fair pricing. Navigating the complexities of rising grocery prices reveals a troubling trend that goes beyond simple inflation. Supply chain chaos, corporate greedflation, and systemic vulnerabilities all play a role. But what does this mean for you? The payoff is clear. Understanding these factors empowers you to make informed decisions and adapt. So how will you adjust your grocery habits to cope with these rising costs? Are there local farmers markets or bulk buying options you can explore? For more insights on how economic shifts are affecting our daily lives, check out my recent video, How Fast Food Became a Luxury. You'll discover how similar factors have transformed the fast food industry, making it more expensive and less accessible.